I composed my out of office reply and turned it on my email. And it's always kind of that great sense of satisfaction moment that I have just before I go on vacation, where I click that box so that every email that comes in on the other side of that click gets this automated reply that says essentially this, that I'm gonna be out of the office with limited email access for the next 8 days. I will respond to this email upon my return. It's very short, it's very professional, it's very, covers all the bases. It's also very fictional. Because the truth is, I'm not actually away from my email. The truth is that I checked it in the car on the way to where we were going for vacation, that I checked it at the restaurant every time we were waiting to be seated. I checked it every night when everybody was going down for the night and going to bed. I felt like I was permitted in that moment to be able to open it and see what I missed and if there was anything urgent that I needed to know or to respond to. The truth was, I had not actually left the office. The real truth was, the office had relocated. It had come with me on vacation, and the very place that I'd come to get away from work for a little while had become the new place that I was officing from. I have had to accept the fact that I don't know how to stop very well. And I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but I got a feeling that some of you do. In fact, some of you just turned your phone over really quickly when this story started. And you slid it very casually into your pocket. And over the next 25, 30 minutes, you're gonna be itching if you keep it there the whole time. Because you know that to not look at it and to not be on standby or to not be able to be reached is actually costing you something. That's a place that I live in life quite frequently, more than I would care to admit. And I know many of you connect with that. That might not be you. Maybe you are a little bit different and you're like, man, I'm not driven by that. And I don't worry about that kind of stuff. And in fact, but there's another extreme. The other extreme might look like, I've been through seasons that were busy and hard or came through something difficult, and I just got to a point where it's time to call big time out. And all that stuff needed to just set aside for a while, and rightfully so. But that season to set things aside has come and gone, and time just continues to tick by. And now what was initially just like a little bit of rest or recovery is now like a new pattern and a new way of life. And maybe there's some projects or some things that you said you were going to get to that you're just not really motivated to do. Or maybe it's like, I'm going to start a new path in life. I'm going to start journaling. But that journal has 2 entries in it. The one on the day that you said, I'm going to start doing this, and this is my new pattern. And then 6 months later, okay, I'm back. I really mean it. I'm going to do this. Maybe that vision board for what's next in life has been sitting in the same place for so long at the house that it's now kind of just become part of the decoration. It's just part of how the room looks. There's two different people. One that's busy to the point of exhaustion and breaking down, and the other that's resting to the point of purposelessness. 2 different people, but both weary in different ways. One is weary from the grinding, and one is weary from the withdrawing. The grinding is something most people can connect to, but honestly, plenty of us connect at seasons, and the other 2, it's just a lot harder to talk about at the dinner party. Some of us have been there at different times, not only in our life, but in a week. In fact, it's a pattern that I see in my own life. Maybe you can recognize this, is that you grind until you crash. You crash until you feel guilty, and then you get up and you grind again until you crash. And this cycle goes over and over and over and over and over again. One of the most universal paradoxes in life is the tension that exists between work and rest. And what we're going to find today is that Jesus has entered right into the middle of that conversation in the most significant and powerful ways. We're going to be in Matthew chapter 11 today. But before we get to the text, can I just say this, that if there is anyone on planet Earth who understands the tension between work and rest, it is moms. It is moms who understand, like, when you're a mom, there is no out of office reply. There is no, I'm sorry, I'm not available at this time. I'm not momming right now. I'm on vacation. So it's to dad today. No, it's not how it works. I can tell you that with every one of our children, there was this conversation that Jamie and I had multiple times as they were in their infancy. And it would go something like this. I would wake up in the morning and I would look to her and I would say, oh, she slept really good last night. Oh, he slept really good last night. And she would look at me, not even say words, but she would look at me in such a way that let me know, those are your last words for the day. Or they will be your last words. Your next ones might just be the ones that you go to the grave with, buddy, because no, indeed, they did not sleep well last night. I was up all night multiple times while you were just slumbering away over there next to me, undisturbed. No, there is no turn it off for moms. You're always in that place where you're trying to do, and there's dignity and purpose connected to it, but you're still a human, and you still have the potential to run out of gas. So moms, if you are here today, and you feel, if you're honest, that you're running on empty, today is a special day, and this is a message exactly for you. Jesus has a word for you in Matthew chapter 11. He says in verse 28, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I'm gentle and humble in heart, and you'll find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." It's one of the most paradoxical and yet also encouraging verses in the whole Bible. It sounds like a mountaintop retreat. I mean, it sounds like the kind of verse you read and meditate on at a mountaintop retreat. You look into the context of Matthew chapter 11, though, and you'll see that actually there was a lot of chaos going on in that chapter. There was a lot of stress. There was a lot of stuff going on in Jesus' life when he made that statement. I mean, the chapter opens with John the Baptist sending a message to Jesus from prison as he's awaiting execution to say, hey, could you remind me and make me sure, is Jesus really the Messiah? I mean, this is the guy who had been Jesus' forerunner in the ministry. There was no one more convinced than John that Jesus was the Messiah. And yet here he is now in this moment where he's facing the prospect of death. And he's going, wait a second, this isn't a life that I thought following Jesus and being a forerunner for Jesus was going to be. I'm going to die. Could you tell me for sure that this is it? Jesus sends a message to say, John, I am indeed the Messiah. The path that I have for your life is not the path that you foresaw, but I am indeed the Messiah. And then right after that, there's a bunch of woes that Jesus pronounces on these cities who just refuse to repent and turn to him. And then at the end of the chapter, after being pretty emotionally charged, and if anything negative more than positive, he makes this invitation where he says, come to me, all you who are weary, all you who are heavy laden, take up my yoke, learn from me, and find your rest. There's great paradox between the invitation to find rest and taking up a yoke. And so I want to illustrate something that I think will be helpful for this entire series, because everything we talk about for the next 4 weeks are going to highlight tensions that exist in our lives that are not flaws in the system, but they are just part of what it is to be human, and they are actually those places of tension where they're not really problems to be solved, but tensions to manage. And maybe the great way to illustrate it is with this rubber band. You know, as I set this rubber band here like this, it's basically useless. There's nothing that it can really do. There's no function that a limp rubber band has. But if we put it under some tension, now it has some purpose. It can hold things. It could launch things. But just the same as this is no purpose, stretched to its extreme, this will eventually snap. It will break. And I think on both sides of this conversation, there are people who need to see visually, that's where I'm living life right now. The power is not at either end. The power is in the tension. It's in the tension of these being held together. That's the life that Jesus is calling us to with this. Some of us are more naturally connected to work, achievement, productivity, striving. And there's all kinds of reasons why we might do that. There's good, healthy reasons, and then there's reasons that are not. Others are connected more to a season of ease and rest and disengagement. Jesus is not calling us to either side. He's calling us to live in the tension between the two. And he's never said it more clearly than in this passage where he says, come to me. Come to me. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened. Weary and burdened. This word for weary is a word that's used to describe working to the point of exhaustion. Working to exhaustion. You've pushed yourself so hard for so long that you are tapping out. You are weary. You are about to crumble or to stumble under the physical toll that it's taken. You've got nothing left in the tank. He says, all you who are weary and heavy laden. That's a word that means to be burdened down like a pack animal. A pack animal that's carrying everything it could possibly carry and then some. And it is staggering under the weight that it's carrying. Jesus says, come everyone who's weary and burdened. His words are not generic. They're actually specific. And those same words are being spoken still to you today. Jesus sees you. He sees you. He sees the weights that you carry. And before he ever fixes anything, he sees the weight and invites you to a different way to live. He sees you. Before he fixes it, he sees your anxiety, your fear, the struggles, the responsibilities, the temptations, the loneliness, the struggles with purpose, the pain and the fallout from sin. As I start to say those, I think collectively, shoulders in the room started to sag down. Because each of you started to feel part of what you do carry. And it's something significant that Jesus, before he would fix it, before he would give a remedy, before he would move any further, would first say to each of us, I see you. I see what you're trying to carry, and I see how hard it is to keep going. So come to me. Come to me. All who are heavy, weary and heavy laden. He doesn't say, come to me, all who are working too hard. He says, everybody who's weary or burdened. And I believe that both people on both ends of this spectrum are weary. You can rest and be disengaged to a point where the purposelessness is exhausting. Or you can live on the work side of things where you're pushing yourself so far for the sake of achievement and establishing something that you snap, that you break. Jesus is inviting us to live in this tension when he says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and lay down what you're carrying. Lay down what you're carrying and take my yoke. That's his remedy. His remedy is take my yoke. Now, not yoke, not like an egg yolk, a yoke, like you would hook two oxen up to. Now, that doesn't sound like rest to me. Here, come to me, and I will give you rest. What does that look like, Jesus? It looks like an implement that we hooked on two oxen to go plow the field. No, thank you. How many of you, when you go on vacation, are the activity go, 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 go people? How many? You can raise your hand. You're like, you don't want to sit around. You want to go, 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 okay? The rest of us are the people who want to do nothing on vacation because life is go, 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 go. Now listen, I'm not saying either one is right. In my own personal self-reflection, I've realized that part of the reason I have to crash when I go on vacation is I don't know how to do life right on all the other weeks of the year. I don't know how to live very well in the right rhythm so that I don't do anything but crash. That's why when I come out of the coma of vacation and go back into work, I don't feel like I rested at all. Jesus says, take my yoke, lay yours down, and pick mine up. Pick mine up. He's saying stop carrying the world's yoke, the yoke of performance and productivity and people's expectations and your own anxious self-worth construction. Lay all that down and take on my yoke, because my yoke is, what does he say? Easy. That Greek word easy might be better translated fitting. The whole verse takes on a different connotation under that. Take my yoke, because my yoke is fitting. The world's yoke isn't, but my yoke is. It's custom made for you. I know how you're built. This one will not break you. What's the difference between the yoke that we've been carrying and the yoke that Jesus offers? Well, here it is. The world makes you work for acceptance, whereas Jesus invites you to work from acceptance. That's the difference in the two yokes. One says you've got to build, do, achieve, establish credibility, and if you don't, you're nothing. The other says you are something, you already have intrinsic value, I do care for you, you don't have to work to try to win my approval, you've already got it. And I don't know where as humans we've missed this, because it's in the Bible from the very, very beginning. I mean, you can see it from Genesis. In Genesis, day 6, Jesus creates people. Day 6, we get people on the earth. What happens on day 7? We're resting. Day 6, people created. You might think, all right, buddy, get to work, Adam. Let's go, Eve. Let's get it on here. Let's get going here. Let's get stuff to do. No. We're resting. Day 1, there's no work to be done here. There's no work to be done. Except for that be fruitful and multiply stuff. If you guys want to work on that, you can do that. But that's the only work that's happening today. We're resting. You don't have to prove anything. I've approved you. I put you here because I approved you. Or look to Exodus, where you have the people of God. Israel gets delivered out of captivity, and they're with Moses, and they establish the law. What is one of the commandments? The Sabbath. What's this about? Well, this is about separating God's people from all the other people in the world, but it was also about something really, really significant, and most look right past this. Where did these guys just come from? Captivity. What did they have to do in captivity? They had to work and work and work and work as slaves. They had to make bricks, and they had to meet a quota. And they had to do it perpetually, 7 days a week. There was no breaks. There was no days off. They were slaves. Part of what establishing the Sabbath was doing was God telling his people, there will always be work to do, but you don't have to work for my approval. You're already approved. I'm going to give you a day in every week to be reminded of our special relationship and the fact that I have chosen you among all the peoples of the earth. You have my approval. What's Jesus say on the cross? To Telestai, it's finished, paid in full. You have my approval. I've paid for your sin. So we live then between the tension of Jesus saying it's all been paid, the sins of the world, but also living worthy of the gospel. And if you just say, well, Jesus paid it all, I don't have to do anything, you're losing the other side of the picture. If you similarly say, I've got to work to build a relationship with God, you've missed completely what Jesus did on the cross. It's the life that's lived in the tension of the finished work of Christ and living to honor what he did for us in this life. It doesn't eliminate effort, it relocates the source of how and why we live. So that's why the writer of Hebrews would say to the people then that there remains a Sabbath rest for the people of God. And if anyone enters God's rest, they also rest from works just as God did from his. So let us therefore make every effort to enter that rest. Make every effort to enter that rest. That phrase doesn't even seem like it makes sense. Make every effort to enter that rest. And then I thought about vacation. and that drive down I-65 to Destin. And I thought, I know what it means to make every effort to enter into that rest, to fight traffic for 12 hours, and to maintain my emotional well-being with other people in the car who are sleeping as passenger princesses all the way down. I know what it is to strive to enter that rest, except what this is talking about is not a place, but a person. Jesus says, come to me, take my yoke, learn from me, learn from me. It's not a place, it's a person. It's a person. Learn from me. This is where yoke is really fascinating, because yoke is and was a device that we used to hook two oxen together. And the older oxen was often hooked to the younger one so that the younger one could figure out the right pace. He was working. He was working, but he wasn't working alone. He wasn't setting the pace. He didn't know the details of the terrain, and so the more mature ox could kind of show him the way. But it's even deeper than that. When Jesus said, take my yoke, do you know a rabbi's yoke? It was a name that was given to a particular rabbi's teachings. That their sum total of their teachings was called the rabbi's yoke. So what Jesus is saying is, when you're yoked to me, when you're yoked to Jesus, you're not leading your life, you're learning mine. You're learning his life. And that's what's so different about being yoked to Jesus, is sometimes we think it's about working and achieving and doing and striving. And as long as we're doing it from the right place, it can be healthy, but often we're not. And walking closer to Jesus isn't about working harder, it's about walking closer to him. Jesus' disciples had to figure this out. Mark chapter 4, there's this story of Jesus doing a full day of ministry. He's tired. They get into a boat. They go out. They push out into the water, into the sea. Huge storm blows up. The disciples are fearing for their life. And Jesus, he's sleeping. He doesn't even wake up in this storm. They wake him up, and they're panicked, and they basically say, don't you care, or aren't you going to do something? And so then he rebukes the wind and the waves, and everything calms down. He lets everybody know who he is, but he also teaches them something really, really valuable about the tension of work and rest. The disciples, they were there with him every part of the day too. They were tired as well. They had great activity, but no peace. Jesus had peace inside of great responsibility. He wasn't lazy. He'd been ministering all day, but he lived anchored in a secure relationship with his Father, living from that acceptance. So don't get the idea that this rest that Jesus is talking about is a life that is lived up in the mountains with the monastics where we don't do anything day after day after day. But neither is it this. And this is something that I've struggled with in ministry. One of the things about my particular work is that in my mind I can get it twisted because I can think, well, this is God's work. And so because it's God's work, it's got a different level of importance to it, or it's got a different level of schedule to it, or it's got a different level of can't put it downedness to it. And so you go and you grind and you push, and ministry becomes pressure, and sermons become this never, like just every week, and you're going and you're pushing and you're trying, and the church is building and you're trying to achieve, and it's all for the right things. And then you step back and you go, I don't know if I always am. I don't know if it always is. And I don't know if fatigue is necessarily a merit badge for faithfulness. And the Lord has humbled me time after time after time in this area, that there has to be the right pace. There has to be the right pace. It's not about stop. Jesus withdrew. He took breaks, but he lived at a breakneck pace. It was a race car race. I mean, it makes me think of the 500 here in a couple weeks. Everybody's going to watch 200 laps, faster than any of us will ever ride in a vehicle. Just insane. But you know what happens every time we watch that race is we see car after car after car slide into the pits. And as we're watching that, we never ever look at them and go, well, that was stupid. Why would you do that? And the reason is, and these cars are going to pit multiple times, maybe 6, 7, 8 times in a race. And the reason we don't think that is because we just know this isn't failure. They're not stopping because they failed. They're stopping because they're racing. And when you're running that hard, that fast, you have to pit. You have to refuel. You have to realign. Sometimes you have to repair. And sometimes the stops are just part of what it takes to sustain to the very end of the race. I think it's fair to say that Jesus was on a race to save humanity. And yet you can see all through scriptures, but he wasn't running so hard that he didn't know when to step back and when to refuel, when to realign, when to fall back into the security of the relationship that he had with his Father. And having experienced what he did, that's why he said to us, I want you to experience what I'm experiencing, so come. Not straighten up and come, not figure it out and come, not earn your way and come, but just come as you are. Whether you're weary from grinding or whether you're weary from drifting, it doesn't matter. And this rest that he's offering is not a technique. It's not a vacation or a better morning routine. He's offering relationship with he himself. And when you have him, life becomes meaningful again, and rest becomes possible again, and work becomes more meaningful again, because you're working from the strength that he's giving you. So come as you are today, weary and burdened, overworked and under-rested, running on empty, running from who knows what, but trying to find something that will satisfy better than what you found. And Jesus says, I have that. You come to me, and I will give you rest. My yoke is easy. It is fitting, and you will find, here's his promise, rest for your soul. His rhythm, his relationship, his promise, it will set you free. So today, I want to invite you to step into the paradox that is responding to this invitation and finding your rest in Jesus. Finding it in him. Finding his yoke and taking it upon your life. Not living or working for approval, but recognizing that his death on the cross was his message to you, that he loved you, that you're worth it, and that he's paid for you. So live from that, not for that. What could you possibly earn that he hasn't already given you? Live from that affection, from that promise, and allow him to transform the way every day, every week, every year goes, and find the rhythm of rest that's found walking through life with Jesus. I want that for every one of you. I want that for myself, for my wife, for my kids, for my family. But I find that many times, I've lost the tension between the two. So I invite you not to solve this problem, but to step into the tension of work and rest. Because it's in this tension that life finds its purpose, it has its power, and God launches us into the life that he's always intended for us to live. Would you stand with me? Would you pray? Heavenly Father.